First of all, I am going to say it. I'm going to tell you something about this hotel that we're staying in. When we arrived at this hotel, we were put into a very nice room. I'm not going to name the hotel because of the end of this story. When we arrived in this hotel, you come from the UK, you try and stay up as late as you can. You go to bed early. A couple of hours later, a wedding party arrives next door. I complain to the manager. They move us to a room across the hotel, which is quiet, tiny, but it's fine. And they start filming a porn movie next door. So we hauled the manager up. It's quite clear, and it went on for an hour. We hauled the manager up in the morning, and he's given us the best suite in this hotel, overlooking the White House and overlooking the monument. So there, I told you all first. And if you can see the backdrop behind me, and you can see the monument from Emily.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
Our guess this week is, where are we staying? Okay. So anyway, moving on. Emily, this week we're at the Global Anti-Scam Alliance. What have we learned about the world of fraud and scams, which is what they specialise in?
Oh, well, it's always a great event, and they mix, good practices and initiatives to try and curb fraud and scams with really moving victim testimony, also research about sextortion of teen boys, which was absolutely terrible to listen to. And they had a guest star, Kitboga, a YouTuber, who spends his life falling for scams. He has married the Nigerian prince. He has fallen for every grandma scam. He also is a software guy, so he's able to show the way that scammers...
Sorry, Emily, I think we're just looking at a selfie of you.
Yeah, I completely fangirled him, partly for my kids who had already heard of him and already follow him.
I think he's going to come on this podcast. He's got 3.6 million followers, so not quite as many as us, but we're looking forward to him coming on.
Absolutely brilliant.
Kieran, have you heard of Kitboga?
Yeah, so I looked it up and I realized I actually watched a bunch of his videos in the past. He basically, I quite like his tech. He basically sort of uses voice changing software to sound like a dear old American nan, and he just drives scammers completely nuts. There's several people that do this now, but he just, these sort of scammers and, that whole process, and he just drives them crazy by doing things like, making a slight mistake when he's about to wire hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they're screaming down the phone, "Oh, sorry. Yeah. I made a mistake there," and he does it again and again and again for hours. So that's why he's got a big following, because he's just...
Emily, that and that was the theme of this. I mean, we're going in there with serious solutions for data sharing, but they're serious, and you're about to tell us about a 100-year-old former FBI agent and his story, and we heard from sexploitation experts talking about, really, really harrowing stories from young people who were contacted by scammers and took their own life within half an hour, within 2 hours. The scammers have got it so refined. Before you trying to summarize that, I wanted to contrast that with the fun stuff that actually gets the attention. The Kitboga, you need all of this. People are getting very interested in getting the scammers back, and people seem desperate to hear the story that they're not just losing this game. But it's a bit of a whack-a-mole, isn't it?
It is, but I think the job that people like Kitboga are doing brilliantly is engaging people and raising awareness without being boring, lecturing and gloomy. He makes it fun, but actually the message is incredibly serious, which is that almost everybody has had attempted scams if they haven't fallen for them themselves. And he makes it funny, and that makes you watch it, but you're also kind of learning. It really makes me sort of contrast a lot of the work that we do and a lot of the conversations that we have, which are ultra serious, long papers, really, really, underpinned by solid research, and they get hardly any reads. And so the the reach that people like Kitboga have are really, really stunning. And it shows us that, actually a message of doom and gloom, whether it's about climate, whether it's about online life, whether it's about scams, people need a bit more fun and they need a bit more hope in their life. But yeah, you're right. Even if everybody became a Kitboga and started to scam the scammers back, I don't know if that's really going to solve the problem. But it's certainly brilliant to watch. And he was also an incredibly nice person to talk to.
I have a theory, and Kieran, you need the notes as well. He smiles all the time. So he's on stage and he's talking about these harrowing stories, and he's talking about people, and they were trying to shoot me, and they're going to come to Washington, and they've named my address, and he's just smiling all the time, And so I think he's smiled his way to 3.6 million followers. Yeah. And according to our PR person, Guy Bellamy, we all need to smile all the time. So here we go. But Emily, the 100-year-old FBI guy, that was amazing.
Oh, that was amazing. So this is William Webster and his wife, Linda Webster. And the title of their talk was "Scammers Picked on the Wrong Couple." Right. And this chap appeared, he's 100 years old, very, very frail, but clearly an amazing guy with loads of dignity. He served in World War II and the Korean War. He was a judge. He was a former director of the FBI and the CIA. And he nearly got scammed by being phoned up. A charming guy who told him he'd won $72 million. His wife overheard it. Cut a long story short, the conversation turned sour pretty quickly, and the guy started threatening to kill them in great detail. Terrifying, actually. They taped the conversations. And thanks to the tenacity of Linda Webster, his wife, the guy ended up getting arrested when he travelled to the US a couple of years later, and really made it their life for the last 10 years to raise awareness about seniors fraud, because the sort of approaches that senior people get. It was moving, it was inspirational, and an incredible couple, especially, both of them, but for different reasons.
Thank you very much.
I love the idea of threatening a former director of the CIA. I mean, that is not a great idea. Yeah. Not a great idea.
Not a great idea.
He's serving time now. So, and I mean, but the rest of the message from the conference is there's a lot of big tech and and law enforcement and banks in that room. The domain name industry, which is the hub, it's, wherever you see scams, you see links. The domain name industry are completely absent from this event. They're completely absent from this discussion, and they're actually cancelling and ghosting people who talk about this problem, but they are at the center of the problem. But everyone else really wants to chip in, help. I've had people from Federal Trade Commission in the US. We're seeing this.
Attention, anyone listening on podcast platforms, this has been removed because it is a secret.
They all want to talk to us about what to do about this proliferation of scams and fraud online. Kieran, in your view, there's a cop car, a real American cop car in the background. That sounds great. What's your thoughts about that, reflecting on this sort of isolationism of the internet industry?
I think you can tie it in. So, I mean, the YouTubers doing these scams. The interesting thing with what they're doing is they're making people very aware of the reality of this and what it sounds and looks like. And so literally millions of people that would never have imagined that this kind of scam was going on now see and hear it. And I think that would definitely filter down. I mean, if I heard my parents, for example, at any point talking about something like this, I would be able to tell them immediately, this is what's happened, and I bet they did this, and I bet they're asking for this. So in that level, that's an education that filters through and across society. So it's incredibly useful. And I also think, if you're sort of talking about the domain name system, yes, they are kind of avoiding this issue because what they see and hear is this is extra regulation, this is extra cost, this is extra hassle, and we're not responsible for it. But I do think if they grow aware and if the society grows a little bit more aware of quite how bad this is and how prevalent it is and how dangerous it is, that they will actually feel a little bit like we should be doing something actually. So I do think that's something needs to be pushed a little.
Yeah, there was one registrar in the room actually, and very vocal, and who joined up to the Global Anti-Scam Alliance then and there as a foundation.
Sorry, he was their fastest sign up. He attended the Global Anti-Scam Alliance from the day before,
and was really actually very open about practices in the domain name sector, quite critical, but also very enthusiastically getting involved. But that's really the only. I think that there was a domain name panel in Brussels in the summer, which showed some good practices. But really, this isn't a circuit that the domain name industry are on. And I guess if they were, it would be an endless discussion about whether they're to blame or not. And clearly nobody thinks the domain name system or the domain name industry is wholly to blame for an epidemic of scams.
Well, I think
there is a part to play. It's an important part of the ecosystem.
I mean, worse, I think it's their absence in the room. It is becoming loud. People are sort of thinking it's the domain name industry's fault. And they just are so angry and upset about what's happening. They need somebody to blame. And the absence of those voices in the room is making them a target. And, you know, I do think they have a point to an extent, but they need to come and make that point in these circles and not just sit in ICANN in a bunker in the RRSG. Anyway, enough of that. Charlie, you're up. And first of all, I'll warn you, Kieran, it's your Tech Room 101 this week. So you've got to think of it. Just to get you thinking, and it's later on, so you've got time to think about it, but might I suggest plug-in audio devices? Anyway, Charlie, guilty pleasure online. What is your guilty pleasure online?
My guilty pleasure online is I watch quite a lot of tech reviews, and there's this one tech reviewer who takes really cheap headphones and he gets the most powerful headphone amplifier, and he basically just supercharges the cheap headphones with electricity so that they start smoking. Because they can't handle the amount of sheer power being thrown into them.
Sorry, Charlie.
Do they go on fire?
Not quite, but they start, like, steam starts coming out.
This is great. Charlie, you are our sound engineer. Is this sort of health and safety advice that you're giving here?
Well, I think, if anything, it's buy good headphones. And
End of.
I'm sorry, I think that's a lovely guilty pleasure online, watching headphones nearly explode with electricity going into them.